Vancouver, there is absolutely unequivocally no one that projected tonight's game the way that it fell. I'm Rob Fai, and welcome to The Nation, brought to you by Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plan. And who would have thought that it would have been Shotgun Jake that saved the day for the Vancouver Canucks, who, of course, saw these games against the Toronto Maple Leafs on the calendar and for sure thought, boy, this is going to be a real tough mountain to climb. But all of a sudden, Big Jake with his second of the year. And then Big Jake with his third of the year. And the next thing you know, in the driver's seat with Bo Horvat's goal, his 10th of the season. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if this is a combination of the Vancouver Canucks playing fantastic or the Toronto Maple Leafs coming in flat. Maybe it was all the above, but that was a pretty good game. If you're the Vancouver Canucks, that's a very big response to a rather lackluster effort just a couple of days back. So we've got an awesome show for you tonight. I mean, we got one of the best shows that I think we've put together so far of the 9 that we've had. We've got Canuck Army managing editor David Quadrelli is going to join us in a couple of minutes. Jay Bowman from Trust the Process podcast, he will join us in the second segment. And we've got so many different ways for you to watch tonight's show. Of course, you can do it on Facebook Live. You can do it while you're here on YouTube, Twitch, however you stream. And don't forget, after the show, you can download the podcast. If you're driving into work tomorrow morning, you want something cool to listen to, we will have it for you on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Again, live, local, interactive here tonight in the Now. All right, so let's get to it. I know what you're thinking. Yeah, cool, whatever. We'll talk about Jake later. Let's get to the trivia, shall we? So let's get to that trivia. Brought to you by Logo Pro Sports. All of our friends over there, Kurt, just dropped off the stuff tonight. And boy, does it look slick. If you're already a winner, we're going to have that out to you shortly. But tonight, I got some great swag, including a face mask, a T-shirt, all Nation branded. But first, you got to answer this question that I'm going to put before you right now. Of course, you know how it is. It's always Canuck-centric. The question, who led the Canucks in the 20th century in penalty minutes, which means basically the 1970 through 1999. I had to do a little research on that. It might not be as easy as you think. I know you probably came to a real quick snap answer, but just make sure. And then, of course, in the feeds, whether you're watching tonight on Facebook, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, wherever, just put your answer into the line. We will select one lucky recipient. Tim Havas was our most recent winner, and so we'll find somebody who gets the correct answer, and we will do it from there. It is a very cool moment anytime we get to welcome a new member of the Nation family. And I got to tell you, as a dog owner, it is a very special moment for me to welcome our newest member into the Nation family, Dog Partners, dogpartners.ca. This is Valerie and her entire staff of trainers that take dogs of all breeds, of all type, and they try to make them better. They make them more obedient. They make them more, accepting of human contact. Look, there's some of the photos of their staff and how they work one-on-one with dogs. And I'll tell you what, there's Valerie right there. What an opportunity to bring them in. I promised that I wanted to do local business, small business. And as a dog owner myself, I mean, look at this kind of reaction that you get. I love that kind of stuff. So welcome to you guys. And again, if you have a pet, if you have a dog that maybe needs some work or, has some trust issues or maybe has a little anxiety, Valerie and dogpartners.ca is where you got to go. So the reason that she's a part of the show, she says, Rob, I want to be involved. I said, no problem. Let's figure out what can we do. I said, I want you to sponsor the guests that come on this show. So our first guest tonight, who's going to help me break down tonight's 3-1 victory for the Vancouver Canucks over the Toronto Maple Leafs. I didn't think I'd be saying that tonight. But again, that's the beauty of sport. Anything can happen at any time. We welcome the managing editor of the Canuck Army, David Quadrelli. Quads, what's going on? I love the shirt, by the way. Nice look.
Thank you. This is usually my go-to. I've worn it to every training camp I've been to. It's the one I go to. Usually day one, I'll wear this one, and then I got to change it up as I go.
Well, I'll tell you what, between that and the hair, man, nothing's going to stop you. And you know what? Nothing was going to stop another guy with some pretty good flow tonight, Jake Virtanen, the much maligned Jake Virtanen. And I know we've taken shots, but on a night like this, you actually kind of feel good for him, don't you?
Absolutely. Jake's been playing well the past couple games, and yes, he got lucky on these goals, but you have to be good to be lucky, and he's played pretty well over these last 3 or 4 games, and you like to see a guy rewarded for that. So yeah, it was a good night for Jake Virtanen, and he's really going to have to build off it because we're really not sure how long Elias Pettersson's going to be out for.
Well, that was the first dose of bad news today, is when we found out that Elias Petterssen wasn't in the lineup. They've said it's an upper body injury, which is about as much as you're going to get from anybody in this day and age when it comes to NHL teams and the said injury. Jim Benning's got a presser tomorrow, which I think is perfect that Jake Virtanen had 2 goals tonight, because you can only imagine Jim Benning strutting into that conversation tomorrow. But let's stick with JV for a little bit, because the reality is here is he has been dragged through the mud. I have even taken my shots at Jake Virtanen because it has just been so unproductive when it comes to the goals and the assists and the lack of productivity. But tonight, in a week or two right now, where the Canucks are trying to figure out what pieces are going to be moving, what pieces might be available. I know the contract isn't easy to move, but if Jake catches a little lightning in a bottle, is there a suitor out there that might take their shot with him?
Well, I think you need to make sure Bob Murray was watching tonight's game, because with the Anaheim Ducks being linked to him, you need to get him out there. You need to show, like, hey, here's a 2-goal game. He's playing in our top 6. Look, he's filling Elias Pettersson's gap. Like, this is what this guy can do. They've got to sell a team on that, and they've got to sell it on he still has upside. There's still a chance that he can develop. That belief that the Canucks had in the offseason that they really don't have as much anymore, they need to sell that to another team, and it's not going to be easy, especially with that contract. But again, like, that's a contract that was signed in the offseason, which I think makes it a tougher pill to swallow for Canucks fans. But I think when you're looking at what you really have in Jake, and if you can move him at the deadline, I think you just have to sell a team on that hope and on that belief. And I don't think they're going to get much back, if I'm being honest with you. But again, a night like tonight certainly doesn't hurt.
And I think just from the human element, it's nice to see him finally get his, even if it's just, again, to use the adage twice, the lightning in a bottle moment. I want to talk a little bit about Thatcher Demko, because we have gone back and forth on Ian Clark and the opportunities, or maybe in some cases lack thereof, to work with the goaltending tandem. We'll get to Ian Clark in a second, but let's start with Thatcher Demko, and when you finally start to crack the whip and say he's the guy. Did that officially happen after Braden Holtby's last outing? Like, are we officially in Demko mode at this point?
To be honest with you, Rob, I thought they were in Demko mode after Calgary. When that 5-1 win with Braden Holtby in net, and then they chose to go to Demko, I thought that was really showing to everybody, showing to your goaltenders, showing to your fans, showing to everybody watching this hockey club that Thatcher Demko is this team's starter. And he's done nothing but prove them right every start he's had. And I'm someone that, at the start of the season, I was talking a lot about how I thought Demko, and Holtby for that matter, were actually playing pretty well, and the team in front of them just was playing god-awful defense. Like, it was nothing resembling defense. That's what I like to say. It wasn't even close to defense that they were playing in front of their goaltenders to start the season. They've started to tighten that up, and I think a turning point for that was in Toronto. I think it was the second or third game they played in Toronto. That was when they started to tighten things up defensively, and I think we've seen the effects of that have a positive effect on the goaltenders. And I think, like I said, back in Calgary, I think that was when they made the decision that this is Demko's team and you've got to ride with him. And I think, you know, he's done nothing wrong to prove them right. Like, he's shown them that they made the right decision. And then Holtby had that start last night, which we've talked about, wasn't too great. And it looks like clear as day to me that this is Demko's team now.
Well, it's his team, and obviously Ian Clark. What an interesting situation right now. You've got a goaltender of the future who looks to be the guy in Thatcher Demko. I'm not saying that Braden Holtby's a lost cause, because I actually thought Ian Clark, with enough time, might be able to give him a little extra charge, be it the fact that we've got him for this season and next season. But with this being Thatcher's year and this being Thatcher's team moving forward, how important is it right now? And I'd love your assessment on this, David. How much is it to get him re-signed and locked in? We talk about Travis all the time and the lame duck coach and the lame duck GM, but for me, Ian Clark, you gotta have him.
Yeah, I'm not trying to startle anybody, but this is a guy who summers in Florida, and we know Florida has a very deep goaltending department now. I don't think because of that department that they're necessarily going to be totally put off on hiring him. I think it definitely helps. Like, I don't think they're going to be after him as much as they would be had they just had one goaltending coach, as they did last year. Now that they have a whole department, again, championed by Roberto Luongo, maybe they don't go out and target him. But this is a guy with ties to Florida. And again, you look at Columbus, what he did with Sergei Bobrovsky. Look, Sergei Bobrovsky's in Florida right now, and I'm sure he would love to work with Clark once again. So that's one organization that I've kind of kept my eye on. I think having the goaltending department helps the Canucks' chances, because I don't know if Florida will want to restructure that department after they've just put it out there this season. I think that may help the Canucks. But again, like, this is a guy who you want to get signed. You don't want this guy to hit the open market. Again, it's much like Travis Green. I think as soon as Travis Green signs an extension, I think his coaches will also get extended, and that includes Ian Clark, obviously. So we have to wait and see if and when Travis is signed, if Clark is a part of that. But to me, this is a guy you just don't want to lose. You can look at the long list of things he's done for this organization. Again, Jacob Markstrom being the glaringly obvious one. And now you're seeing early returns on his work with Thatcher Demko. And again, like, you look at guys like Michael DiPietro and even Artur Silovs, who's playing with Manitoba right now. He's implementing a lot of stuff in his game right now. Ian Clark is in these guys' ears. He's in Curtis Sanford's ear in Utica to get him to work on certain things with Jake Kiley. They have a very clear plan with each goaltender. And every goaltender you talk to that's worked with Ian just has glowing reviews and glowing things to say about him, just how meticulous he is and how he's so certain of what he wants from his goaltenders and how he explains that to them and how he's a good communicator, how he communicates to them that effectively, and they know exactly what they need to do each season going forward, even the guys who are playing away from the big club right now.
What do you make of the, I guess you would say, the downplay of the North Division? There's a lot of people on social media and even in the general media that say you can't really measure your success against a division that is just not good across the board. I mean, again, Toronto comes in with the best record in the NHL and get handled pretty, I guess, timely by the Vancouver Canucks if you're a Canuck fan. But is this a division that, outside of just the paper analytic, is actually not a good division? Or is it really hard to say because we don't get to see the rest of the NHL?
It's hard to say, absolutely, but I don't think it's any secret that this division has the Ottawa Senators in it. And again, like, you're looking at the Calgary Flames and all the struggles they're having right now. Like, it looks like every team in this division, Montreal fired their coach 2 weeks ago. Every team in this division is having some sort of crisis except for the Leafs. And it's just, it's crazy. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, and that every team is having significant issues this year in some way or another, I think it's hard to say that this division isn't quote unquote bad, but it's tough because they all have to play against each other. And again, if we're saying this division's bad, what does that say about the Canucks?
It says that there's work to be done. Jim Benning is the guy that may or may not be doing the work after this season. I've long said that I think his walking papers are right at the end of the final game of the season. I've circled May 8th as the date, but let's talk about what Jim Benning tomorrow is going to bring to this media availability. He hasn't talked a whole lot. We saw Francisco tweeted tonight, actually, saying how good the game was. But I want to talk about Jim Benning in particular because right now we know he's holding a losing hand. We know that right now he's just trying to find a way to do the unthinkable. And what I mean by the unthinkable is just snuff out the chaos that all the fans have when it comes to their assessment of this team. What does Jim Benning do tomorrow? Does he admit defeat in certain regards? Like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that? Because the last time he did, and he did that one-on-one with Ben Kuzma, it came back to bite him big time. What does he bring to the table tomorrow? Is he defensive? Is he protective? Is he aloof? What would you expect from that media availability?
He does exactly what the PR department tells him to. And I'm sure they are working with him a lot ahead of this press conference, far more than they did the Kuzma piece. But man, what does he bring? I don't know. I think he's going to try and bring hope. I think he's going to have to answer. He's going to have to answer some tough questions, hopefully, about, I'm going to be on the call tomorrow. And I know if I get a question, my question to him is just going to be, what is your message to the fans right now? Because there are so many fans on Twitter, and fans just not even the casual fans that aren't necessarily on Twitter. You talk to them and they're just like, what happened? And it's like, don't ask me. I didn't build the team. And it's crazy because we're looking at this situation right now, and it's really not one we thought we'd be in with this team. And I don't think Jim thought they'd be in this position. So for him to have an availability first time since training camp, I know he's been requested a lot. I've been one of the people requesting him. We've all made requests for Jim Benning, and now he's here. And it's going to be really interesting to see what he says. I think he's going to say, we still have games left to play, and we're not eliminated from the playoffs yet. I think that's all he really can say right now. I think that's what you're going to hear tomorrow from Jim Benning.
And Quads, very quickly before we wrap up, what's coming up at Canucks Army? What are you guys working on?
I am working on a very intricate piece. I'm talking to Artur Silovs, as I mentioned. I'm talking to him tomorrow about Ian Clark and the work that they're doing. And I'm actually doing a feature about how, kind of what I alluded to earlier, about how Ian Clark is working with the prospects who are nowhere near this hockey club, and kind of what he's told them that they need to work on and how they're implementing in that into their games, and how it's going to look going forward with the goaltending situation in Vancouver.
Well, I love it. And I love that right now you got a beat and a complete understanding of what's going on with Canuck Nation. So, Quads, I appreciate you doing this, man. You and I have been around since pretty much the very beginning, what you and Chris Faber are doing. And by the way, I had my choice, and I went with you tonight, Quads, just so you know that. So, I appreciate you making time for me, and more than anything, keep doing the fantastic work that you're doing. You're doing the heavy lifting this year with the Canuck team that's a little left to be desired, but I've loved reading it. And again, thank you for making me a part of your night tonight.
Cheers, Rob. Thanks for having me.
There he is, David Quadrelli, the managing editor of Canuck Army. He is a guy that I think he was one of, if not the first recipient of the Botchford Project. To those who don't know what the Botchford Project was, shortly after the passing of Jason, the Canucks and a couple of key people like Thomas Drance, Jeff Patterson, Wyatt Arndt got together with the Canucks PR department, and they brought young, aspiring journalists to cover a game. And it was one game, but it was an opportunity for them to see the arena from from Botch's seat. They got a chance to hang out with Jeff Patterson. They got a chance to see what the inner workings were of a Canuck day. And I still think it's one of the great things that the Canuck PR department has done over the last couple of years. And I always tip my cap to guys like Jay Pat and Thomas Drance and Wyatt and everybody that got behind that project in a pretty tough time. Speaking of tough times, came up, I guess, like an hour or an hour and a half ago. I'm a guy from Toronto. There's no doubt about it. I tell everybody I moved out to Vancouver when I was 21. This man on the screen behind me is royalty, and not just in Ontario, at this point across Canada. He was hockey's dad. He was Wayne Gretzky's father, and there was no doubt that even when Wayne went on to become the greatest player that I've ever seen in my lifetime, that Walter was always an ambassador for the game, and the amateur game at that. And I think the thing is, we find out earlier tonight that he passed away at the age of 82. He had long battled Parkinson's disease. I think he was assessed with that back in 2012, if memory serves me correct. But this one hits close to home just because of what he represented. Wayne went on to just unreal successes, new heights. He did it both in Canada, south of the border in the United States. But Walter always stayed true to his roots. His wife, Phyllis, passed away back in 2005 after a battle with lung cancer. And even though I feel, I guess, a little reprieve in the fact that they're reunited after 16 years apart, you look at this tonight, and this one hits home. I've been watching all the social media channels since this got announced, and everybody is talking about it across the board. So to Canada's hockey dad, rest in peace. And more than anything, our thoughts and prayers tonight go out to the Gretzky family and to so many whose lives he touched tonight. We'll be back with more Nation after this.
When you're responsible for every little detail, here's one thing that you don't have to worry about: your Chambers Plan employee benefits. The rates stay manageable and predictable because more than 30,000 Canadian businesses are pooled in the plan. And you never have to compromise on benefits and extra features for you and your staff. Better benefits, stable rates, and a chance to relax, at least for an hour. This is what Canada's #1 employee benefits plan looks like.
Welcome back to The Nation with Rob Fai. I am the aforementioned Rob Fai, and it's brought to you tonight by the Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plan. My thanks to all of those guys, Ramon and the staff locally, that have allowed us to keep the lights on and bring you live local interactive content. Now, I know somber going into the break, but I want to get the energy back here, and tonight was a great night, not just for Jake Virtanen, but for Shotgun Nation, who tonight, after what are we talking, like 19, 20 games, finally get their opportunity to go on social media and post their shotgun videos. We were able to snag just a couple of these off of social media, so here we go. 45 seconds of you out there doing your shot. This guy's doing it in the sink.
Here we go.
Now this one.
Shotgun Jake.
I like this one really good. He doesn't get a drop on that dry t-shirt. That's how you do a shotgun Jake for real. That's a good one. The best one's still to come. Watch this. Can of corn and whiskey. Of course, we all know Tommy the tractor guy, but check this out. He breaks his tooth. That's tough go, man. I hope that thing was capped, but it's very cool that everybody finally got to get together and do the shotgun. That was, of course, created just over a year ago by the former TSN 1040 morning guys, Halford and Bruff, and I just thought it'd be cool to kind of show you the creativity that goes into some of those shotgun Jakes. I will say this, as a guy that bartended for years, I know the guys that drip out half of their can before they actually open up and crack the can. Don't think you can pass it by me. I can hear the difference between a full can and a half can. So if you're going to do it, go all in. That's all I'm saying. I mean, what else could I say? All right, I want to say hello tonight to my friends over at Move Health and Wellness. It's time to get to the out-of-town scoreboard. My hellos tonight to Gary and TJ over there doing great things right in the heart of Surrey. Again, make sure you check them out at movehealthandwellness.com. Let's get to the out-of-town scoreboard. Very modest night when it comes to what's going on, but the Jets looking good. They get past the Canadiens. Boy, Canadiens are slipping. Remember when they were red hot? Oh, that's right. They were red hot against the Vancouver Canucks, but it's been tough sledding right now for Montreal, who has definitely fallen into that middle of the pack. They're no longer hanging out with those at the top, the cream of the crop. But Winnipeg is a team you might want to keep your eye on, because if Connor Hellebuck can continue to do what he's doing, it's tough. And, remember the other night when I was saying that Ottawa was really starting to turn the corner? Calgary took the old touchdown approach tonight. 7-3 the final over Ottawa. And Calgary's one of those teams, kind of like Vancouver. You take those lopsided victories any chance you get. Hell, you'll take any victory any chance you get. And tonight, Calgary feeling like Kate Winslet on the top of the Titanic with her arms fully spread as Leonardo DiCaprio just whispered sweet nothing. I don't know where I'm going with that. You know what? A guy that likes movies and a guy that could probably quote more movies than I'll ever be able to joins me here on The Nation tonight. He is the host of Trust the Process podcast. I think it's the number 6 Canuck podcast in all of the Canuck realm. Jay Bowman, what is up, fella? Dude, I like the swag. I like that.
Thank you very much. So to take over for you, so in Titanic, what happened was, no, I'm kidding, I'm going to stop there. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. And you know what? It was starting to feel like we were going on the old Titanic voyage this season. But on a night like, it's a great segue. On a night like tonight, it feels like everybody finally gets to exhale. Now, unfortunately, for the rest of the season, the Canucks don't have that luxury. But Jay, you watch this game tonight and you see how they were able to fight against one of the top teams record-wise in the NHL. What were some of your takeaways from tonight's game beyond Jake Virtanen?
Well, the Canucks are now undefeated with Höglander having the umlaut. I think that's a huge thing that not a lot of people are talking about for tonight. Aside from that, I don't know if they look good or the Leafs just didn't look that good. I've been saying for literally days that it takes 301 games for an NHL power forward to really hit that next gear and hit their stride. And this was game 301 for Virtanen. If I'm betting, I'm calling the Ducks tonight. I'm sending footage. I'm sending clips of the game and trying to get a trade done. $800,000 seems like a pretty good deal right about now after that game from Virtanen.
I just asked David Quadrelli this. Jokes aside, what is Jim Benning walking into this press trap with tomorrow? And I call it a trap because reality is people are going to ask him probably not the questions that he wants to answer. So what's the logic behind him finally facing the fire?
See, the fire may be a little bit dulled after today, but, games like this are great. It's awesome when this happens every once in a while. But what's already happened this year has happened. I think that, he's got a little bit of swagger tomorrow when he goes in there. But aside from that, I think they're still going to hold his feet to the fire after everything we've seen this season. It's tough. But what do we expect him to say? Not a lot of people I see ask the hard questions. I would love if the first question to him was just, why? Just why? And see where he goes with it. But yeah, I mean, he's going to say the same stuff we've seen from him before. I mean, what are we, maybe a month or so out from the last time he had that media availability? And that reverberated through the city for weeks with the stuff that he said. So, he's not going to come out and admit any mistakes or culpability or anything. He's not going to come out and say, here's the real reason why we didn't re-sign Toffoli and why we didn't actually run out of time. This is what really happened. We're not going to get any revelations or anything tomorrow. It's, going to be the same platitudes and stuff as always, and I don't think there's much we can do to turn things around at this point. What's happened has happened, and it's not going to stop what's going to happen. So
I think I find the timing curious, and we'll circle back on the media and perhaps some people's inability to ask the quote-unquote tough questions, but the last time Jim Benning truly sat down with somebody in the media, it was Ben Kuzma, and Jim had the old slip-up saying that, I ran out of time, and that made ripples all across Canuck Nation. My fear is that he's going to talk in general terms. My fear is that he's not going to really open up the vault per se. So you've seen Jim Benning over the last couple of years. How do you get beyond the veil of just, innuendo and just basic talk? How do you get to the real stuff?
I don't think you do, especially after what happened last time with we ran out of time. Like I said, that was a huge narrative for a long time. The jokes, the memes, all that stuff floating around on Twitter. I think he's going to be pretty well coached tomorrow by PR. I know Quadrelli illuminated that as well, that he's going to say whatever PR basically tells him to say. We're not going to have him go off script or say any big revelations or anything, because last time he said one thing about we ran out of time and everybody just keyed in on that and used that to drive all narratives, but true or not.
Now, we talk about the Canucks and their inability to make moves in their front office. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, Francesco came out with his tweet mania and talked about how everybody's safe. Just a couple of minutes ago, Pierre LeBrun reporting that the Calgary Flames have fired Jeff Ward, their head coach, coming off a 7-3 victory over Ottawa, and it looks as if Daryl Sutter has been the coach that will be doing the replacing. So that is yet another coach on the heels of what Montreal did. Now Calgary with some breaking news here tonight. Do you see these changes that other teams making actually adding to the pressure for Francesco to do something, or did the tweet just say, leave me alone, I'll deal with this in the offseason?
I feel like the tweet just said, leave me alone, I'll deal with this in the offseason. Unless there is just unmitigated disaster all the way through. We're talking double-digit losing streak. I don't see anything happening at all with the front office or the coaching staff of this team until the season's over. Now, when the season's over, I definitely think some heads are going to roll, because although there's a lot of uncertainty here, there's, a lot of certainty. A few years back, even though a lot of people were super skeptical about, the free agent decisions, there was still at least the possibility that everything that Benning was doing was all part of some grand plan. As thin as hope was, at least you could still say, okay, well, maybe he's a couple years into the job. It takes a little bit of time to come out, but 7 years afterwards, it's not going to happen. So I don't see any future for Benning here at all beyond this season. Would be surprised if he gets fired during the season. Again, it would take something cataclysmic for that to happen. But I feel like Francesco is also just going to stick with that tweet, and he doesn't want to circle back and admit being wrong. A lot of things with this franchise, they are not down with accepting when they're wrong or admitting defeat.
Well, even going back to not using the R word, the rebuild word. They used retool, rebrand, re-everything. They just wouldn't call it what we all knew that it was. I look at the departures over the last couple of years, everybody from Judd Brackett right through to Trevor Linden, Lawrence Gilman. To be honest with you right now, we keep saying who's calling the shots right now. And more people walking out the front door makes me feel like it's an ownership move. So my question is, we call for blood with Jim Benning. We call for blood with, Travis Green periodically when he loses the room, as some people have suggested at times. But what length would it take for Francesco to be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm cashing out. I can't do this anymore. Like, I know that sounds, to use your phrase, cataclysmic, but I just wonder if he's ever at one point even thought to myself, man, it's just not worth the hassle. Like, beyond the property itself, I wonder if he's even having fun at this point.
I think it would take a good offer. Honestly, I don't see him tapping out or anything like this. I think it would take an incredible offer for him to go, you know what? Yeah, maybe it's not necessarily worth it. Or he turns a profit or something. So
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much that simple. So let's talk about this, Jay, and I appreciate you making time for me. This is Jay Bowman, host of Trust the Process, of course, one of the best podcasts in the city. Jay, I have long been a huge fan of yours as well. Let's take some takeaways from this year, whether they make it into the postseason or not. Let's pick one or two things that we say, you know what, despite them having a mediocre season or a terrible season, depending on where they finish, what are two takeaways? Would it be the evolution of Nils Höglander? Would it be the emergence of Thatcher as a bona fide number one? What are some of your takeaways amidst the chaos that would be enough for you to say, this salvaged the season for me?
Those are the major two. There are two that rise to the top, absolutely, and that's Höglander and Demko. Everything else has been incredibly inconsistent. I mean, we look at JT Miller, who's almost a point-a-game player, but there's a lot of criticism as far as his, on-ice body language goes, his actual language goes, as far as him being frustrated. There are only two things you can look at that have been positive consistently throughout are Demko and Höglander. But I don't want to, write this season off just yet. Ron McLean last week said we'll give it the next 6 games, and I've got my Ron McLean-o-meter here. So we're currently looking at we're 3 games into it, and 2 wins and 1 loss. So we're looking to see where we're at game 6. But Ron McLean said, "Hey, we're gonna wait 6 games. Let's see." Nobody wants to hear it. So yeah.
Oh, I can't. You know what? The worst part is if he's right. Like, forget if he's wrong. If he's right, he's going to walk in with that stupid red Melton leather jacket that's got the brown sleeves. He's going to talk about Hockeyville, that one time he was in Lec Lelouch or whatever it is, Quebec, and he's just going to be like styling and profiling. But beyond Ron McLean, that's such an easy guy to pick on. Beyond Ron McLean and his assessments, what would it take for this fan base to lay off the Vancouver Canucks by the end of the season? Because to be honest with you, a lot of us have already written off the season. I mean, Jeff Petterssen comes on here and just throws crazy math that they've got to go 21-9 or 22-8 and whatever it is. But what would it take, short of making the playoffs, for this fan base to at least take a little bit of heat off? Is it calling for somebody's head, getting Jim Benning fired? Is it this team getting a Calder? I mean, what would it take for Canuck Nation to get appeased?
Let's see. Virtanen has games like this all the way throughout the rest of the season. Quinn Hughes Norris win would probably make things feel pretty good. Demko absolutely owning the net and becoming the de facto number one if he hasn't already. But even with that, there's always a poison pill with something. If Demko continues to play super well, then what we're looking at is Holtby's contract over the next 2 seasons. And again, here's another misstep from Benning. So I don't think there's anything that's going to make this season acceptable for Canucks fans. We've gone through this for too long. Although it was a really fun game tonight, it was great. It's great to have these little wins. I don't like them being anomalies. I love the team. I want to be positive about the team, and I want to go into every single game thinking the team's going to win. Now, this was obviously crazy. I mean, Petterssen being out, going against the number 1 team in the league, this was kind of on the board as an L already, and the Canucks, led by Jake Virtanen, which is shocking to say even now, pulled off a huge win. And I don't know who I'm more happy for. Jake Virtanen, Jim Benning, or Tommy Kippis after what happened tonight. But short of the team running the table, making it into the playoffs, and having a second-round exit, there's nothing that's going to salvage this team. This city has had enough. Fans have had enough. It's been 7 years. We want to see some changes, and it's just it has to happen. Like, we can't go through this anymore. Like I said, the writing isn't on the wall. The wall is on the writing. I don't know what Benning's going to say tomorrow. It doesn't matter. Nights like tonight are a nice short little burst of serotonin, but it's just, it's not enough in the grand scheme of things.
Jay, I've got to ask you a couple of questions. Social media is loving your jacket. They're loving your T-shirt. They're loving the jersey that's hanging up behind you. Let's start with the 76ers gear. That's Iverson era, if I'm standing corrected.
Well, they've gone back to it's the classic logo they're wearing now. So this is, the 76ers are the secondary team on Trust the Process, as the name obviously indicates. So we are, the number 6 Canucks-related podcast in the market, but the number 1 Canucks, 76ers, NFL, pro wrestling, movies, TV, music podcast in the market, and that's undisputed. And
let's talk about the NWO shirt.
Yeah, I had a choice. I've got my NWO black and white shirt, my red and black shirt. I was just, feeling a little Wolfpack vibes tonight. Sometimes you just know.
I was just watching Hulk Hogan in his entrances, and it was Eric Bischoff that was leading him to the ring. the red and white boa took me a little while to adjust to. Is he the greatest heel in wrestling of all time? And I mean, I'm talking like Shawn Michaels in Montreal. I'm talking about great change. I mean, the immortal Hulk Hogan joining the NWO. For me, it's the greatest heel turn in wrestling history. You stand corrected if you could beat me, but that's going to be tough.
As far as where he was before being wrestling's greatest hero and turning into wrestling's greatest villain, of course. As far as heel turn moments go, you got to love that barbershop window. Shawn Michaels throwing Marty Jannetty through that window. That's burned in my brain forever. But yeah, Hogan went from being, the number one, the greatest good guy in the history of wrestling to being the biggest heel for years. Commendable. I'm not a huge Hogan fan. I'm more of a Randy Savage man myself. But yeah, that's definitely probably one of the biggest heel turns. I remember everything vividly as it happens. He comes out, joins Hall and Nash, drops the leg. He's the third man, and then that basically kick-started the biggest boom period in wrestling history.
Is that the Macho Man Intercontinental Championship in the background? I'm looking at all of your feed tonight. Do you have an IC belt behind you?
I do, yeah. There's a lot of stuff off camera as well. I didn't know how much stuff can I cram. I got Captain America's shield over there. I got a white Power Ranger helmet. There's a lot going on in my office here. So.
I got to see the white Power Ranger helmet. Come on, do me a solid just before we go.
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, this is fantastic. If you wear it, it's worth double points. Is it wearable?
Is it wearable? Rob Fai. I wouldn't drop the money on this if it wasn't wearable. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I need to see this. It would be the first time ever. Look at this. Oh, this is fantastic. Single men everywhere are like, I'm not alone. Oh, that's embarrassing. Good for you, Jay. What a way to finish. Look at this. Oh, I can't wait for you to watch this a little bit later. Jay, you are a mensch, man. I appreciate you doing this. I just want to talk about Trust the Process, the podcast. I know that you do this with Wyatt the Stanchion Art. I know that you do this with Jay Swing. Let's talk about A, where we can find it, and B, what makes your podcast so distinct. What do you like about it the most?
I love doing the show. We're not super big into, stats, stuff like that. We just have conversations about the team. We're not afraid to swear. We are unofficially referred to as the swear word party. And there's also a lot of silliness. The second hour, we take everybody's questions from Twitter, and we'll discuss anything. We'll discuss favorite Halloween candies. We'll discuss, stories of, past pranks we've played on each other. There's a good rivalry with me and Wyatt. I love that guy. He's one of my best friends. Yeah, there's a very professional antagonistic relationship. He, plays pranks on me all the time. Jay does a phenomenal job with the production element of the show. And yeah, it's silly. There's a lack of polish there from a content standpoint that I feel really helps the show, because just a couple guys sitting around having a laugh talking about the Canucks and literally anything else that pops up. So you can find it on iTunes, on Spotify, on Podbean. Trust the process.
Love it. Jay, thank you for doing this, man. You have immediately gone, and I hope Jay Pat's not watching, to the top of the list of coolest guests that we've had on this show. The fact that you're willing to bare your soul and drop the white Power Ranger takes you to a whole new level.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I love the show. Hey, I've been watching from day one. Longtime fan of the nation. So I think what you're doing here is absolutely great. This is the go-to spot for post-game Canucks coverage in this market, and I am so grateful. Thanks for asking me to come on. I'd love to come on again someday.
You're coming back soon, trust me, and you got to be wearing all the gear in the back. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate this.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Jay Bowman of Trust the Process. Trust me, if you're looking for a podcast, I think they do it once a week, and it is absolutely hysterical. You know what? It's funny because certain podcasts, you get that kind of Chuck E. Cheese humor. These guys are actually like gut-splitting humor. It's good fun. So again, if you get the chance, I think it's called TTP Show Van, and please do me a favor and check it out. All right, we'll take our break here. Don't forget, you can interact with the show. I know we've been a little light on callers over the last couple of nights, but we have text out and tweet out and cut and pasted the number that you can interact with the show on the other side of the break. You know how we do it. We talk wrestling, we talk Canucks, post-game, whatever. Right behind me, there it is, 778-907-2071. If you want to write that down, I'll leave it up there for a couple more seconds to make sure that you can program it into your phone. It is an opportunity, just like we used to do it over at TSN 1040. We can do a little live, local, interactive question. You can tell me what you think of the Canucks in the current state, or what question. Here's one for you. What question tomorrow would you ask Jim Benning if you were a part of that media availability? There's the number. You know how we interact, and you know how we do this show. We got one more segment, Travis Green. We will play his clips from the post-game conversation. I bet he's feeling pretty good tonight. And maybe we'll even get some player footage as well. We got a lot to get to. One more segment of Rob Fai Nation Radio. Pardon me, I guess what do we call this? The Nation with Rob Fai, brought to you by Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plans. We'll be back after this.
Your employees work hard, and some of your employees are working 2 jobs at once. Make double duty a little easier with Chambers Plan. On top of a full suite of employee benefits, all Chambers Plan health options come with Teladoc telemedicine services. A doctor can meet with you, write a prescription, and send it to your pharmacy of choice. Better benefits, stable rates, and a video call with a doctor who can confirm it's only a rash. This is what Canada's #1 employee benefits plan looks like.
Welcome back to The Nation. I am Rob Fai, and of course, tonight's show brought to you as always by Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plan. We opened up the phones, and good enough, we're back. Let's go to the first of a handful of callers here. A longtime fan favorite, Shirtless Hans, is back in the house. Shirtless One, I know you usually call after Canuck losses, and sometimes it's a tough pill to swallow. What were your takeaways from tonight's game, and how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. And what were my takeaways? I've got family that are living back in Toronto, and all they can do is, first comment they said is how many goals or how many pucks can fit in a Canuck net. And I had to give them the Royal Raspberry earlier. But my biggest thrill was to see and hope that big shotgun Jake would get 3 goals. He came pretty close in that last minute of play, but just ran out of time. But it's nice to see, and I guess the trading block might be happening. You know, it's a good time to showcase. But you know, it's only 1 win, and we got a lot more to do to get there. But the satisfaction of beating the Toronto Maple Leafs is something to be proud of.
So, what question would you ask Jim Benning at tomorrow's media availability?
Probably why?
That's a good one. He'll probably say it's worth 16 on the Scrabble board. But anyways, Shirtless One, I appreciate you doing this one. I got to be honest, you're a pretty good leadoff hitter, but the guy that's coming up next is probably got some fire as well. The guy that's behind
you is right. We were just having a good conversation ourselves. We were able to hear each other, and he was asking me about the Team Canada picture behind me, and that's when the juniors won the Team Canada a couple of years ago, and the one with that I worked with. The recent one is behind me on the other side. So anyway, Rob, great show as always, and go Canucks.
Hans, you know what? It doesn't count unless you have a Power Rangers helmet. Sorry, the bar's been raised. It's all right, Hans. I'll leave you on that one. I appreciate it. Let's go. Now, this is a guy that might actually have a helmet of some type. We go out to the mean streets of Langley, where Jake, I got to tell you, man, after every show that you've made a cameo on, people are like, God, I love that Jake from Langley guy. So what do you got for me tonight?
Hey, first of all, rest in peace, Walter Gretzky.
Yes.
Great man, the dad of all dads out there. Honestly, you know, I want Jim Benning after this game to call every single general manager in the league and be like, did you see Jake tonight? Oh my God, shotgun Jake tonight. Did you see him? The speed, the work ethic, the strength. Like, that's what I want to see Jim Benning do and hype the living heck out of him, because Jake had an awesome night tonight and I hope he continues it for sure. And honestly, Rob, one thing I'm really happy about more than anything is we finally now confirmed once again that a lot of people have been saying it, is that Thatcher Demko should be and most likely will be the number one goalie for this team and moving forward. And it's really important to have that young up-and-coming future guy that can kind of grow with the team. But clearly, this guy has an immense amount of talent. So it's really nice to see more than anything. And I'm happy you guys had me on, man. I really appreciate it, Rob.
Jake, they love you, man. I don't know what it is, but they love you. So you come back anytime, all right?
Take care, man. Pleasure.
All right, my pleasure. All right, we'll keep things moving, and I appreciate you guys finally jotting down the number and getting back. The other night we were kind of light on calls, but it was a lazy Tuesday. The Canucks hadn't played very well. Gary, welcome to the nation. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. I can say I'm doing well because this is the first time I slapped my hands together after a Canucks goal in a long time. I don't know why. What it is about the Leafs is you always want to win against the Leafs. And considering the fact that I have Austin Matthews as my number one guy on my fantasy team, but I also picked up Thatcher Demko to be my goalie this week, I'm happy with the win, right? So, for one, and then also seeing Jake Virtanen scoring 2 goals. I don't drink, but, I mean, that was nice. And, again, as Hans was saying, the empty net, we wanted it to happen, but minutes before they pulled the goalie, I said, they'll probably try to get Jake out on the ice, but they won't score an empty net goal because the Canucks don't score in an empty net, let alone score against goalies. So, but today the win, fantastic. I'm at the point of this season where I'm thinking that, you know what, the wins don't really matter. We want to see changes. And alluding to the fact that, yes, Jim Benning has a press conference tomorrow. My question wouldn't necessarily be a question to Jim Benning. It would be a statement. It's going to be started. Somebody needs the gutso, or gutso, whatever the word is, to say to him right off the bat, we don't want your cookie cutter answers. We want our questions that we're asking. We want the truth behind it. We don't want the typical, we're doing the best we can. We're playing with what we've got. He needs to really put his head down and answer the questions properly, because I think that's what everybody wants out of Jim Benning. Not a, I ran out of time, as we alluded to earlier. One thing before I go, Jay Bowman, does he have any letters in his name after the letter J? Because all I saw on the screen was J. Bowman. And I just want to do a quick Macho Man impression for him because I know about his podcast. All right.
Hit me with it.
If I was to say to Jay that I'm better than Hulk Hogan, oh, you better dig it. Oh, yeah. That's what I got.
Thank you. I appreciate it. By the way, this is the closest we've ever come to the radio show ever. Absolutely fantastic. Now, Jordan in the back, I think you said we had one more caller before we get to Travis Green. Shane, I appreciate you doing this. You will be my last caller before we get to the audio. But don't forget, on the other side of the Travis Green, and get this, Jake Virtanen in the Zoom room. Write that number down and, again, become a part of the nation tonight. Shane, what do you got for me? How are you?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
So far, so good. What question would you ask Jim Benning tomorrow at his media availability?
You know, he's got so many contracts that he needs to negotiate with. I would wonder, and I mean, on point, like, which is the one that he is most focused on? I mean, he has got Besser, he's got Petterssen, he has got Demko. Which one is he most focused on? Because all 3 of those guys, they're going to be cornerstones of a franchise, whether it's the Canucks or any other team. It's going to be, given whether it's Rousseau or whether it's Beagle or whether it's Eriksson or whether it's the ongoing Eriksson deal situation going on. He still has to deal with the cap fallout with Luongo. Like, where is he going to focus all his chips on? And then 2 other things. Sorry, and then I'll let you get at it.
Fire away. It's your show just as much as mine. What do you got?
Oh, no, it's always your show, man. Number one, respects to Walter Gretzky. You can see my man over here. The greatest hockey dad ever. I remember my dad taking me to a game at the Coliseum in '91, and I got to watch Gretzky play, and I have photos of it with my old disposable Kodak camera, and it was amazing. And then also, just how hilarious is it that Alex Burrows is the assistant coach of Corey Perry right now?
That's a really good point. Yeah, isn't that something? It's amazing how many crossroads there are at some point in people's careers. And Shane, great one. And I'll try to explain the order of operation of the contracts, but I appreciate you making time for me tonight. Come by anytime, all right?
Great.
Let's talk about the priorities. The obvious priorities for me are Petterssen and Hughes. Everything else is secondary. Besser, there's a little more leeway on, obviously, just from a time perspective. Thatcher Demko is an interesting one because the reality is if he plays well and he uses those last 27, 28 games to his advantage, I think there's a couple $1 million difference between a mediocre season and a guy that's going to start to work his way up the food chain. So there's no doubt about it. We know that there's going to be about $20, $22 million that frees up here unless something goes crazy wrong. But I got to think that most of that's just going out of the right pocket and into the left pocket because you got two cornerstone pieces, as you heard from Shane, that are about to get paid. And I don't think either of them, based on who their agents are looking at bridge contracts or anything less than getting what they're worth, and rightfully so. All right, Travis Green sat down at the podium a couple of minutes ago. We've gone to Canucks.com. We have extracted that Zoom call. So here is the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks coming off a 3-1 victory tonight down at Rogers Arena.
Hey, Travis, how pleased were you with the overall performance from your group tonight to get a result like that against one of the top teams in the league?
Yeah, very happy. I thought it was one of our better games of the year. Like you said, that's a really good hockey team over there, and it's nice to get a win. I love how our team responded from last game.
What can you tell us about why Elias missed the game and what his status is going forward?
He's injured, upper body, day to day.
Okay, next we'll go to Ian McIntyre.
Given a couple of the leads that you've failed to hold as a team in recent games, how pleased were you with the third period to turn a 2-1 game to a 3-1 win?
Very, Ian. Yeah, that was it was. I thought the third was probably our best period of the night. I just liked that we stuck with it. We kept skating. We kept pressuring. I thought we made good decisions, not just with the puck, but without the puck, which is an area that we've been talking a lot with our group. And yeah, it was a good third period.
I know we're now talking as much about Thatcher as we used to ask you about Jacob, but what did you think of his game, especially in the first 25 minutes or so when they were badly out shooting you?
I don't think the game was ever you can say badly out shooting. They had a lot of power plays, or they had power play shots in the first period. I believe it was even strength shots were 10-7, I believe. But they got an offensive team, and they got a lot of firepower over there. I thought Demmer played a great game, but it didn't feel, I guess, like it was a one-sided game, like you said in the first half of the game. That's an offensive team that you're going to give up chances. Your goalie's going to have to make some saves, and I thought Demmer played a great game.
He did. There's no doubt about it. Travis Green at the podium a couple minutes ago down at Rogers Arena. I think you look for more from Travis Green, but at the end of the day, even after the victory tonight, there's still several games below 500. Trust me, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I'm just trying to say before we look for that excitement and pep in the Canucks step, they're going to have to put together a couple more wins. But again, as Jay Bowman said a couple of minutes ago, 2-1 since Ron McLean decided that 6 games from now they were going to be absolutely on fuego. So you never know. All right, so we've heard from the head coach. Let's get to the man of the hour. He's with Mike Michaelis, but Jake Virtanen at the podium and probably exhaled a very deep breath for the first time in a long time. Here's the audio of those two gentlemen as well.
Canucks forwards Mark Michaelis and Jake Virtanen. We'll take our first question from Brendan Batchelor.
Hey guys, I'll start with Mark. Just how excited were you when you found out you'd be playing your first NHL game tonight, and what was the experience like for you?
I can't even describe it in words. So something I dreamed about my entire life, and today I got the message this morning. For me, the day felt like leading up to the game, it felt like forever. So it was really exciting to get out there and play in my first game.
And Jake, for you to be able to contribute with a couple of goals, I know the offense hasn't necessarily been coming for you to this point of the year. So how good did it feel for you tonight?
Yeah, it felt good. I see that little stretch there with not much going on, and it just felt good, especially with a big game tonight. This was a big game for us, and it just felt good to get those out of the way, and I want to build off that, and honestly, it just felt better to get the win more than anything. We need these wins as much as we can, and obviously it was a good game tonight, and now we got to be looking forward to the next one. They're going to be coming back and being ready to go, and we got to come back stronger, so it'll be good.
Next up is Ian McIntyre.
Hey, Jake, I know that you have done your best to kind of block out all the white noise that has surrounded you now for a couple of years. Has it been hard this year to stay positive, being out of the lineup sometimes, being mentioned in trade rumors? What has it been like mentally for you?
No, it's, a lot of players go through it, and it's just part of hockey and part of the business. And, for me, I love playing in Vancouver, and I love playing, and I love the Vancouver fans. They're super passionate. They just want us to win. And, every guy on our team wants us to win. We do a lot of work in the room and do a lot of video. And, other than that, it is what it is. I'm just one player, but, for me, I try to stay positive as much as I can. And like I said earlier, I have great teammates. We all support each other in that room. Obviously nice, family supports me, and a lot of friends. So, it's been good. I haven't tried to been negative or anything, I don't think. And, I think it's just, tonight was a good stepping stone. It felt good, really good tonight.
I'm going to tell you something, man. That's about as polished and as professional an answer as you'll find. I mean, Jake knows. He has to know. He's got friends in the neighborhood. He's been dragged through the mud all season. All season. And for him, in the face of that question, to come out with that kind of a pro answer, good for him. And not just because he scored 2 goals, because that's how pros handle themselves in those moments. That's real. I saw that raw just as you saw it as well. It's pretty impressive for that young man. Good for him. All right, let's get to the trivia tonight. Again, we had a lot of responses. The one thing that I like about the trivia, brought to you by Logo Pro Sports, is I see all the right answers, but I see a couple of wrong ones as well. And sometimes I realize that not everybody goes to the Google search engine. Who led the Canucks in the 20th century in penalty minutes? One of the best to ever suit up for the Vancouver Canucks. The big guy, number 66, 29, whatever you want to say. Gino Olczyk is the correct answer. Our winner tonight, who's going to receive some The Nation swag, The Nation, like The Rock, Rosario Ardita. Congratulations, you correctly answered Gino Olczyk, so we'll have a prize pack coming out your way in just a couple of hours. And don't forget, every night we have trivia for you here on The Nation, and it is brought to you by Logo Pro Sports. Kurt and all the guys over there, if you need anything customized, whether it's business, whether it's sports, whether it's something in your family you need done for a birthday, Kurt is the guy. So write it down, logoprosports.com. You can fill out the contact us form, and you'll be in contact with those guys in no time. All right, let's recap what we got tonight. I'm torn, because I want to sit here and I want to say how good they played tonight, but on the passing of Walter Gretzky, I'm simply just going to say it was a thrill to have you tonight. Good on Vancouver. They took on the best team in the North Division tonight statistically and beat them straight up. 3-1 the final. And I guess the only thing you can say is Saturday, they got the early start. They got the 4 o'clock special because of everybody back east. I I'm not sure what it would take for them to make the playoffs. We look at what's coming up on the upcoming game schedule. We got one more Saturday against Toronto. Then we take on Tyler Toffoli and the Montreal Canadiens on Monday and Wednesday. But I'm not worried right now. I think I'd have to see 5 or 6 wins strung together for me to all of a sudden get excited. That's the mountain that they face. But tonight, I'm just going to say, you know what? It's good to see them do it. It was nice to see them win on home ice. It was nice to see Jake Virtanen score 2 goals. It was nice to see Thatcher Demko play well. There's no spears. There's no daggers coming from me tonight. It was just a well-rounded game. And that wasn't perfect, but it was enough to beat the best team in the North Division. All right, so we're going to be back just a couple of days from now. Don't forget, it is the proverbial early bird special. Based on the start time, I would assume you'll see us Saturday at about 6:30, 7 o'clock. Jeff Patterson's going to stop by. Dave Tomlinson's going to stop by. We have a boatload of analysis coming for you on Saturday because Saturday represents the midway point of this truncated season. So it's an opportunity to maybe fill out some report cards, see what the grades are for certain players and where this team is as a whole. But again, tomorrow, Jim Benning will face the music and the media, and hopefully they bring a little bit of heat. My thanks to everybody in the background. My thanks to both of my guests tonight, David Quadrelli, the managing editor of Canuck Army, and my thanks to Jay Bowman from Trust the Process podcast. Trust me, you want to check out Canucks Army, read away, and then you want to listen to what Jay Bowman, Wyatt Arndt, and Jay Swing have. That podcast is sensational. My thanks to everybody behind the scenes here with Hubcast Media, Peter Young and his crew doing a fantastic job. I will see you in the early evening on Saturday. I am Rob Fai. This has been The Nation, brought to you by Chamber of Commerce Group Insurance Plan. Good night, everyone.